There it is. As you can see, we have added credits now to the side as I try to keep up with all that stuff. So we're hopefully I haven't missed anybody. I'm sure it will come up at some point, but we are starting to do a lot more. We've been building a lot of story stuff this week and or last week, and I did some work on that. It's not perfect, but it did. When I finished it, it did make me laugh. So let me see if I can get that up here. Because I took the notes that we put together and wrote out the grandpa's story. So that's what we're gonna cover today. I want the credits to run a couple times here first. Okay, things I've learned today. Number one, as much as I like the Cracklin' Oat brand for snacking, it is not a good snack for on the show. So, because it does mess with my throat quite a bit. I do have my hydration system with you, yes. Because I already finished my big old coffee. There's a little bit in there. I like the end of it because it's mostly chocolate. Yeah. Okay, so let me get this set up here. And let's see if we can get the page up. We need to take the logo down. Get the, I think it's this one. Yes, it's this one. So I was looking at all this that we had talked about the last couple days last week. So these are all the notes that we put together and all the things that everybody submitted, and everybody's names are on it, of course, which is how I get the stuff on. And hopefully I have everybody in the credits so far, and we will correct that in coming days. As things get added, we'll be adding more things to it. So, but what I wanted to do, and I want to, let's see. Yeah, there's enough people in here right now. We can do it. Okay. I wrote, I took all that and wrote something up here. Let me see here. And wrote something up, which hopefully can be the grandfather's and his brother's story. So I'm going to read it. Okay. In the days before the Saxons, before the ravens carried word of Ragnarok, and before last true Vikings vanished from Midgard, there were two brothers, Eric Ironsoul, and Valtor the Clever. They were twins, born of the same mother, and bound by fate. One night, as the aurora shimmered across the sky, a great rift opened above their village, a tear in the fabric of the world. From it spilled creatures neither the gods nor man. Warriors vanished, homes crumbled, and in the chaos, the village idiot, Jorn, the scatterbrain, Steve, shouted a prophecy. His madness often blinded him to reason, but in moments of clarity, the gods themselves seemed to speak through him. The fountain knows the tale of the past, but not the future. Find it before the void swallows it up. Swallows all. None knew what he meant, save the old otter, who watched with knowing eyes. This was the same otter who had tormented the boy who loved to throw axes into the river. The same otter who once said, "Spitting facts is better than picking your nose." The rift swallowed the village whole, casting Eric and Valtar and their people into the world unknown any of them had known, unlike any of them had known. Here, the laws of the gods held little sway, and survival demanded more than faith alone. As they grew, the twins found themselves on different paths. Eric, the elder, clung to the old ways. He listened to the whispers of Norns, cast ruins upon the sacred stones, and called upon Odin's wisdom. His followers built a village near the great fountain, where the knowledge of the ancestors was preserved in its waters. Windmills spun like fingers of Nord, and fishermen cast their nets with prayers, and the hunters paid homage to I got these names from a book, so I don't know how to pronounce them all, with every arrow loosened. Valtor, however, placed his trust in something else, machines. When they were boys, an accident had nearly claimed Valtor's life. Eric, already gifted in magic, could not bear to lose his twin. As he prayed to the gods, Loki himself appeared and whispered a cruel truth. Valtor, thank you, Red Panther 47. I will wait for that to end, so we will go, and we will continue. Oh, God, we're just getting all zombied out here. We will continue after this zombie message. Sorry, guys. I broke my momentum. We were so close to the end. We'll get it back when we come back from the break here. Just want to make sure I have this up so I get. I clipped the start of the story. Okay. Kalasari, thank you very much for the follow. I'll go back so they can be edited, maybe, and we'll start back at Valtor's. However, that way I can take the two pieces and edit them together. Wrote and Iskari. I don't know what is Iskari. Iske. I do not know how to pronounce that, Scry. I'm sorry. Okay. You should clip this story to put it in your YouTube later. Yeah. If you, I'll start at a pace back, and then what I can do is I can edit them together after. I will pull the clips later tonight and put them together as one clip. I'm just waiting 11 more seconds for the zombie to go away. I didn't realize the zombie was going to start. I would have probably should have waited, but oh well. Okay, so back to where we were. Valtor, however, placed his trust in something else, machines. When they were boys, an accident had nearly claimed Valtor's life. Eric, already gifted in magic, could not bear to lose his twin. As he prayed to the gods, Loki himself appeared and whispered a cruel truth. Valtor was bound for Helheim. In his depression, Eric wove the forbidden spell. He did not return his brother to flesh, but to steel and copper, a construct of magic and mechanics. To some, Valtor's survival was a miracle. To others, it was an abomination. Free his soul, they whispered, but Eric could not, and Valtor would not. As they grew in this strange world, the brothers quarreled. Valtor rejected the gods who had allowed their people to be cast into this place. He built a new village of gears, steam, and iron, where men labored beneath smokestacks, harnessing the power of alchemy and invention. He vowed that no Viking need ever bow to fate again. Years passed, and the rift between them deepened. Yet fate, even the fickle weaver, ever the fickle weaver, was not done with the Iron Soul twins. And so, in the face of fate neither of them had foreseen, the brothers stood at the precipice of destiny, one with ruins of and gods, and the other with steam and steel. But would they fight together or tear each other apart? The fountain awaited. So that's what I put together from our notes that we were working on all this stuff over here, and had a couple little things like I really liked that I was able to shout out Otter's uh, spitting facts is better than picking your nose. Is a Japanese trend of stories where the main character is sent to another world, usually after his death. Oh, okay. No. Okay. Bum, bum, bum. But yeah, so I thought that put, although it's not the main part of our story, it is an important part, and it gives us it gives us a good story base for why Grandpa and his brother are the way they are. And as always, this is 100% a first pass. All this could be gone in 2 weeks by depending on where we go with the writing and stuff like that, and where we go with the story itself. I need no name. Thank you very much for telling me that. I never had heard about that. That's interesting. It's called S Kai is a Japanese trend of stories where the main character is sent to another world, usually after his death. This was before their death, but I totally get what you're saying. Interesting. Yeah, so this gives us the base for the grandpa and uncle, you know, and then we still, even with the boy who we're playing the boy. We have to figure out basically why grandpa was why grandpa's raising him, and why mom and dad aren't around. That's something we still have to talk about. Uh, Valid. Where is Davey's? I still heard that Narnia is maybe. I mean, I've seen the Narnia movies, but I haven't read the books. To be honest with you. Yeah. Clip the start of the story. Yeah. Yeah, I can edit them together later. The examples Google gave, I would say it is examples of Alice. What are they? Okay. But they're transported to another world before their deaths. It's when they're kids, actually. Or when they're young. It doesn't have to be kids, but. So now we have a backstory. Where do we go next? Well, we have the backstory for the uncle and the grandfather. We don't have the backstory for the kid. Um, we put and we also don't have a backstory as to why they were transported in. We hint at it a little bit that up here that that there was a prophecy from Steve about it, but it wouldn't be Steve because they're young. Hmm. Maybe it is a single generation. Maybe what we can do with the kid is his, though he was sent through because he was visiting his grandfather at the time. Because he was visiting his grandfather at the time, more we could do something like he had been teleported with grandfather. That's if we want them to be. Okay. If he was teleported with granddad to the new world, that way we can argue that his parents weren't part of the people that were lifted up. Because as the last thing, maybe granddad, once he finds granddad, he fixes everything. He fights all the monsters. He fights the big bad boss guy. Maybe his granddad has figured out enough power to enough a way with and has enough power to send him back to his mom and dad. No, it is another plane of existence. In fact, we had talked about it as being another dimension. How would I know a plane of existence? Yeah, and we've talked the whole time, and I just didn't write it in this, is we talked the whole time about the fact that it was another dimension, or even one of the nine realms. But I don't know all the nine realms, so I don't know if there's a realm that's empty. But we know nothing about it, so also correct. Because it was always, every time we talked about it, it was another dimension that they were sent into. Not necessarily another planet, but another dimension. Yes, the main fountain in the middle of town can be where the otter lives. And it could be the only otter in existence. According to Google, Jinagagal is a closest thing to an empty realm. It is not one of the nine realms, but rather a void that existed before creation. It was the vast, chaotic emptiness between the fairy realm, the icy realm of Nephilim. Ice, but it would be icy. I mean, we couldn't make it everything icy. They could be bound up and stuff to keep warm. No, no, no. When everybody got picked up and moved into the realm, which we talk about here at the very first thing here. One night, an aurora shimmering across the sky. A great rift opened up above the village and a tear in the fabric of the world. From it spilled creatures, neither of gods nor men. Warriors vanished, homes crumbled, and in the chaos, the village idiot, blah, blah, blah. So basically, people got pulled up into the new realm. And in that realm, we could say that that's when grandfather and they could have been younger, but we'll see how that kind of works out. If we say that they now we'll say 3 years ago, got pulled up into that time. In those 3 years, they were able to build, some buildings. They were able to construct, get into a mine building thing. The other brother, the uncle, could have got more into mechanics and stuff like that and machinery there, because they had to come up with something other. Maybe Netham is the right place. I'll have to do some research on Netham and Helm, and see what it is. But so the kid maybe was visiting Grandpa when this incident happened, and it pulled him up with Grandpa the same as it pulled the other people from the village up. Not everybody in the village was taken, and we can make an argument for that later as well. Did the otter also get ported with them? Yes. And why it's so wise, or is possibly the only one like you said. Yeah. Because the otter was a creature that we talked about before that, in fact, I think we even mentioned it over here. It's that the otter gives some sage advice here and there. So it's a clue giver without a clue. Does that make sense? No, that doesn't make sense. I'm trying to find where it was talked about. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Somewhere in here. Ah, it's the same author that tells you spitting facts is better than picking your nose. And you can make one of the boys tropes him picking his nose. Yes. Let's make his arch nemesis. Boy really likes throwing stuff in the water. This is the kid that throws axes in the water. One day he almost hits an otter. So the otter has been fighting with him ever since, and he can't beat the otter in a fight. So that's why he wants the axes. So the otter also, yes, the otter got picked up with the portal as well. Everybody that's in the story got picked up with the portal. Were they trying to dig their way to another realm? In them mines, I think they were. I think what we talked about for the mines was they were trying to mine a mineral or something. We haven't decided what it is. They were trying. There was something they could mine in the mines that the uncle thought that would help him build better machines or power his machines or something else. It could be coal, it could be anything that creates energy, and that energy and the byproduct of mining itself will create everything, will be used to make everything they need to make more machinery. By the way, I finally sat myself down and started drafting my game last night. The scope initially too large. Yeah, you always cut it back. Must minimize a bit. Yes. And that's kind of what we're doing is we were kind of all over the place. Now we have, if we say this is the the base story for Grandpa and Uncle, done. We put that aside. Now we work on the kid story, and We can also do the what we've already talked about is, yes, the uncle comes and takes the grandfather because the uncle wants to know, in this particular case, if we change it to the uncle wants to know the magic that the grandfather used to put his soul into the mech. So because he wants to further his needs, he wants to remove the souls of other people and put them in mechanical beings so that they can mine more. I will be honest, don't like teleport idea. Doesn't seem matter much, if anything. No, it's just they were moved to another realm, and we can come up with a reason why later. It's just they are moved to another realm. In moving to another realm, it isolates them from Vikings, the original Vikings. It isolates them from when the Vikings came across the Saxons, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And then allows us to do this and then tell our story of trying to get grandpa back. And then along the way, the kid learning that it's believed that grandpa could send someone back. Anybody have an idea of why would they be teleported? It could be something as in all honesty, it could be something as simple as Loki thought it was funny. Let me pull this over here. Okay, so Scry has put forth a question. Why were they teleported? What caused them to be brought to this realm in the first place? I think that's a fair question. I blame Thor, who would blame Loki. That is true. Is we could have a discussion amongst the gods as part of a cinematic arguing why this was happening, is because it could be something that the gods are trying to figure out as well. But I need to read more about Loki is a trickster. I wouldn't necessarily call him a villain. Loki does things for several reasons. Loki likes to do things that, number one, are just he loves playing people against each other. Another one, based on the readings that I've been reading, Loki really liked doing stuff that would piss off Thor. He actually thought it was actually quite funny to do things like when he removed Thor's wife's hair. He did it because it was funny, to where the dwarves had to make the golden hair that she wears because he removed not just her hair, but he removed all the follicles of her hair as well. And when Thor came to ask him why, he basically just said, because it was funny. Yeah. No, Scry, I understand. You've missed a lot. So the story doesn't necessarily interact with the gods, other than the grandfather still believes in the gods, where the uncle does not. The uncle is very much about we're in this realm. We have to make the best of it. The gods are gone. We got to find new ways, new technology, and all that kind of stuff. So to have a momentary cutscene where Thor is stomping into Loki's room to say, "Why did you teleport? Why did you move them to the other realm?" I think teleport's the wrong word, and it doesn't fit with the Viking lore, but that's just the word we're using. Why did you move them to the other realm where Loki can go? I know nothing about it, But that could also trigger Loki to start going in and messing with them, messing with the people in the new realm. So I think that we have to take into account that Scry. I like the fact that Scry is arguing back on some of the things we're doing. It actually is a good thing, because if we do not listen to those arguments, if we do not listen to those holes in our logic because we are too close to them, then we're not doing it right. So yeah, I understand the spirit of what he's asking, and I'm all for exploring it, because we will come up with ideas on how to answer those questions, so that when the player gets to the game, we don't have answers for them. Yeah, Scry, in your comment of why we need this even, you mean the game itself or the story? Or why do we even have to explore the story? I don't understand your comment about that. Because we are at the very beginnings of these storylines. We literally just started really focusing in on them, I think, Wednesday. And we spent a couple hours a day on them. I just need a clarification as of what you mean by, my concern maybe personally is, why do we need this even? What do you mean? I need you to clarify that for me, because I'm not sure if you're talking about the backstory for the grandfather and the uncle, the story for the kid that the player will be playing, or that they have moved realms. As for the move realms, I wanted to isolate them from the rest of the Viking world. And for the backstory for the kid, because we need to explain why the kid is even there, because the question does come up quite often as to why is the kid living with his grandfather? What happened to mom and dad? What happened to his whole family unit other than granddad? You know, if you're referring to Loki in a story from the Norse mythology, why was Stan Lee a cameo in all the movies? Because I think he did the comic books, didn't he? Yeah, I think he had something to do with the comic books. Well, that's what we were just talking about. Is if, say, that the move to the realm was a happenstance, that just something happened, or maybe a god did something somewhere else and it was a butterfly effect that just caused this effect. And say that Thor found out about it first and immediately blames Loki, and that's how Loki gets involved in it. And then Loki comes and says, that's about the time that the accident happens where the uncle gets killed, and Loki says to the grandfather, that Loki is going to Helheim, and that's where Loki's involvement starts. Loki may have nothing to do with how they got transmuted into the new realm. And that's what we're trying to figure out. We're at the very, just so you understand, Scry, we're at the very beginning of trying to build the story. We do not have all the answers. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to work it out. And we're working it out as a group. So, and using the information that we do have to build a basic story. So we don't have all the answers here. We're trying to find them. Since Loki is a trickster and one person believes in the gods and the other doesn't, maybe possibly he was trying to prove the gods existed and praying for a favor. And Loki appears as Thor and continues to do so. Meanwhile, pitting the people against Thor because they think it was him. As Loki says, I have no idea what I'm going on when asked. Meanwhile, Loki does good deeds to make people like him. Yeah, he does. There are times he does. But the most time he's up to mischief. And that's easily. I saw something in chat that I wasn't here earlier. Did you guys settle on a realm? No, we have not. There was a small discussion about it, and a realm was put out there by, I think Savvy Otter put it up. And I said that I have to do some research on that realm because we believe that that realm is mostly empty, but it's also a frozen realm. So we have to decide whether we change our realm that we're in into an ice realm where it's more Hoth-like, for lack of a better way to put it. Sure, that's where my questions comes from. I guess I pushed for answers a little too quickly, maybe, but it's definitely, the questions are completely valid. We do have to figure out, not only right now we have the grandfathers and the uncles backstory. Now we have to say, okay, we haven't even really touched on how they got teleported or how they got moved to the new realm. And that's pretty important, but not as important as the personal interactions that we're talking about. Also, what are the involvements with the gods? Are the gods aware of it? Did one of the minor gods do this on purpose? Maybe it wasn't Loki, maybe it wasn't one of the major players, but Thor will still blame Loki because as the mythology goes, is Thor blames Loki for everything, and that's a key, that's a tool we can use. So, but in any case, I don't think of Loki as a villain so much. It's just a guy that likes to stir the pot. He's a troll, Yeah, we're just throwing ideas out. I saw something and okay, realm. Sure, that's where my question comes from, I guess. Okay, no worries. No, I have no worries about it at all. Your questions are completely valid, and they are questions that we're going to have to answer. And when and where we get to that part of the story, we will need to answer those. Meaning that it's pretty pity the people against Thor and pitting the people against Thor and making them like Loki, and the people thinking Thor sent them to the realm. Yeah, we could do something like that. Okay, blah blah blah. So you have Thor and Loki fighting, and the people also mixed up and confused. Well, the people are going to be confused anyway, and the reason they're going to be confused is, as we're talking here, basically, how the hell did we get here? What brought us here? Why were we chosen? All those questions are questions that they're going to need answers for. But that's also why we're starting the game, the actual gameplay, 3 years later, or we'll say 2 years later. So if the kid was 5, he was 7 visiting grandpa or 8 visiting grandpa. This event happened where they got moved to another realm, and he's still with his grandpa. He's now 10, and and trying to figure out, why, but we need the backstories for what happened to his parents if his parents were not, because what we should do is that we should not know whether his parents died or not with whatever was going on, because in the grandfather story there's a lot of death going on, but the grandfather still holds to all the old beliefs, all the old rituals, all those things for Odin and Thor and Loki as gods and stuff like that. And the brother does not, and we can say that we still have to work out the timeline as to when the brother ends up dying and gets turned into a mech or a steampunk character, but I think using the idea of he's a steampunk character, believes that he's going to last forever because he's mechanical, and he wants to learn. I think learning how to do that is something that he needs to pursue, because he could be having a situation where people are dying too quickly in the mines. So the uncle basically needs what I'm writing, because it's way too small. Sorry about that. Uncle needs to learn how to transfer minds to machines. Yeah, because there may be something, and there may be good reasons for it. Like if the mine workers are dying from something in the mines, but the machines can keep going. So if they're dying in the mines as humans, and humans, haha, you know, Sparta. Okay. So I've got 2 alternatives for the realm. Draw from the realm of the forest giants, sent as warriors to Odin's. Whether it is an honor or a punishment is yet to be discovered. Or Loki tampered with Bifrost and accidentally created an anomaly which sucked all creatures from every realm and threw them into it. It occasionally still rips creatures from other realms. And through the majority of cases, it rips people from other realms. And the villagers have to defend against all these threats. In Asgard, Loki covers this and does the grandson believe in godlike grandfather? If not, it can be which is put in a situation, and Loki can blame it on Thor by sending them to the other realm. As for the steampunk, it could be the reason to bring people back after the brother dies, because he is a distraught maybe. Sparta, I don't know if your full answer got put in because it stops with in Asgard Loki covers this N. So I don't know if your full answer got put up. I want to make sure that I copied this over to our stuff. Taking our notes. I also want to take this stuff from Kelsari. I am copying your guys' names on this so that I make sure that I add credits to the stuff we're working on. Maybe they got teleported because Loki's studying spell between realms, Thor begged. Hitting the poor Vikings. There's an idea there. We'll see. But that's part of this is part of game development, is figuring out what the stories are, figure out where the holes are, figuring out where the questions are. I think that Scry is completely valid in asking the questions that they're asking, because those are the questions that we have to answer if we're going to make a complete solid story of a game. We have to look to those, because as people are playing, these are questions that are going to come up in their mind. So yes, every one of those is a valid question. But what's funny is you can tell by the way people are typing that there's a little bit of annoyance, and that's okay. What I had talked about this before in early Blizzard is that we would be throwing ideas out and doing this stuff, and people get very passionate about stuff, and people will get very in your face about things. And I always loved it. I always loved every minute of it. You know, I luckily for me, I was never one of the people that got hit in the face, but it happened. You know, people get very passionate about this stuff. You know, but as I've always said, all these questions are 100% valid, and we do have to find answers for them by the time we're finished. It doesn't mean that we have to find answers right in this moment, but we have to take note of the questions. And remember that these are things that we have to answer. Not a convo related to Game Store. Okay. I'm going back and looking at some of the things that Scribe put up, so we can keep them as a question log of things that we need to answer. And we're probably not going to answer every single one of them. We're going to answer as many as we can, you know, and then to figure out what is needed. I do like the thing about Loki was working on something and Thor came in and bugged him. It's based on the way Gaiman writes Thor. I can see that happening. That's something that I wouldn't be surprised by at all. I'm putting Scry's questions down here so that we have them. And just so you know, Scry, we may not be able to answer all of them. You know, as we're going through. Yeah. I actually like the way that Gaiman writes Thor, because Gaiman writes Thor as he's kind of an idiot. You know, he's basically a jock. You know, and when he gets his hammer the first time, it's literally like ooh, gimme, gimme, gimme. You know, very funny the way it's written. But to my point earlier, which I was just talking about a second ago, is do not, when you're doing these things, do not try to count people out because they're asking a lot of questions, you know. And I've said this before too, is we may be able to answer them right away. We may not be able to answer them till further down, you know. And some of the stuff that's been brought up may not even be something that we can connect to what we're doing without being further down the road, or even being. Let's see if I got this one up here. I don't think I did. Sorry, I'm catching up to live chat here in a second. I just want to get this stuff down before. Unless, and maybe someone can answer this. Maybe Otter knows this. Is there a way to just get a copy of the whole chat from Twitch? Troy. Well, you might have good news soon. What's up? Hope everything's good. The grandson believe in the gods. I think he would. My way of looking at it is I think that the grandson is very close to granddad, and that his granddad is someone that he very much looks up to. Yeah, Loki could hide it. That could work very good, and it could get him in trouble. I think that if 100% Loki should get in trouble eventually, you know, because that's kind of what he does. He's a troublemaker, always has been. You know, I like the idea of him doing something that caused this and then having to hide it. that works for me. You know. I have that over here. I want to make sure we got this. I do like that idea. I need no name. Maybe they got teleported because Loki was studying teleportation or something. Maybe something that has nothing to do with teleportation. Or he was playing with something from somewhere and messed it up. In the story perspective, could we leave the gods out so the player has doubts if the gods are? Well, I think that's what's going on in the uncle's town. Is they went exactly that way, Santu. Is that they're like, the gods don't exist. We're done. The grandfather still adheres to the old gods. The uncle does not. And that was the whole point. So yes, the gods are actually the uncle is actually trying to leave the gods out of it. He thinks the gods are gone. Yeah, and we can do huge reveals at the end for all kinds of stuff. You know, just having the stories in place doesn't mean we give the whole story at the beginning of the game. It just says, here's the story, here's how we're going to build it, you know, and then we can decide what the reveals are later. Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about is what if Loki was working on something and Thor, just being the big doofus that he is, just kind of bumped him from behind or something, or maybe pushed him or something. Oh, you can. Okay, I'll have to learn how to download the whole text string. My lawyer contacted me, so it's possible. I'm not sure what's going on, Troy. I hope everything's okay. go back. Troy, I'm sorry if I don't remember the subject of what you're talking about. If you send me a DM, I will answer you. I'm sorry, I just don't remember. I apologize. But I hope everything works out well. Because we can have the motivations of the uncle to be to build more people like him, and the vision of the grandfather to try to adhere to the gods. Now, I like the idea that the uncle needs the knowledge that the grandfather has to move consciousness between humans and machinery. We have a story of brothers and story of gods. How do they connect? Is this Loki did a thing, a folk story, or something that is actually happening and we meet that in the game? My main question at this moment is how do we connect them like this? One brother has forsaken the gods, and one brother is trying to keep hold of the gods. That's how we connect them. They are in a new area, new realm, whatever. They're cut off from their upbringings. So one holds to tradition and one wants to move on. Well, because we can do a situation like if we're thinking about it, if Steve is a conduit for all knowledge, which we've already talked about, and sometimes he's brilliant, sometimes he's not. Maybe it's a situation where gods are moving in and out of Steve at different times. And basically, he's gone mad because of it. But when the gods are in him, he can be quite lucid and give a lot of good ideas. But when the gods are not in him, he can be. Every time you talk about Thor, I see your son in my head. Funny thing is, he acts more like Loki. I have no idea what that means, but I have not talked about. Oh, Thor, as in Thor, not my son. Yeah. Two parts. Generally, a lot of myths are yeah, and we have to figure out what because a lot of the myths have to do with teaching morality or teaching a point or things like that, and we have to figure out what are the lessons that are supposed to be learned. If we're going to go down this road, then we're going to go down this road, and it's going to be a lot of work, and it's going to be a lot of story stuff, and all that. And Sparta, I did see the map that you made, and I find it quite fascinating. So we may redo the maps to something more like what you were putting up. Um, okay, cool. Because I want to go back and download quite a few of the chats because I missed a lot of notes in while we were doing them. And if we have a whole thing of them, then I can do that. That's awesome. Thank you, Savvy. What are we talking about? We're talking about story stuff. Basically, why were our characters or moved to the realm they're in? Was it the gods' fault? Right now we're kind of going down the line of Loki was doing something, and basically someone bumped him, and in bumping him disrupted what he was working on, and it caused a rift in the realms where our Vikings got pulled into another realm. That's kind of the gist of what we're kind of doing, but there's other ideas on the table as well. So we're just working our way through them now. Every time you backstory for the game you're always making again. Remind me about how golems are made in Dragon Age. I don't know how golems made are in Dragon Age. I don't play Dragon Age, but golems are usually like you put a bunch of mud together and then bring it to life to go kill your enemies. Yeah, and that's kind of what we're leaning towards. Santu is exactly kind of where it looks like we're heading. I will put this in here because it's already written here, but we'll in other forms. But yes, you're correct in that. Is we have a group which is the grandfather's group that still wants to adhere to the gods, and then we have the uncle's group who has already been turned into a mech and is already his consciousness has already been moved, and he wants to move other people into immortality, which he believes he has, which later on we'll figure out a reason why he doesn't and we can kill him off. But yeah, I got one that can connect all of these. Loki was experimenting plots. So Loki was bugging Heimdall about improving the travel between realms. Loki wanted something that needed Heimdall's all-seeing eye. As they were working through that, Thor snuck up on them and jumped on both of them, ultimately triggering the creation of a new realm. The thing is that Heimdall can't find it, and Loki starts yelling, "It wasn't me this time." Cute. That's actually quite funny. But I forgot about Heimdall. I forgot about the Rainbow Bridge. That is where everything passes through. Why am I not? Am I missing the zombies coming up? Oh, I'm way behind on chat. That's sorry. Apparently, I'm way behind on chat. So Loki's dad, Thor was Ragami. Thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it. You got a copy of that in the emailed Excel file. You got a copy of that in the emailed Excel file. Did I email an Excel file? If Thor doesn't watch this VOD, hope that he will very confused, as he will think that the story's about him. Nah, he will not, because he knows that I call him Jason. I don't call him Thor. In fact, it was funny because someone had asked a question and they clipped out my answer. And I started to answer Jason and then changed it to Thor because I'm like in the middle of my sentence because I'm like, oh shit. In my head, I went, oh, I call him Jason. Everybody else calls him Thor. I should I should call him Thor so people know who I'm talking about. I don't know how many people know his name is Jason. His first name's Jason. His middle name is Thor because I named him. You know, but it was because of a freak thunderstorm going on at the time he was born. I don't want to make Steve one of the gods. Grumpy Otter, I see where you're going with that, but I would rather him be a human or a regular Viking that has gone mad because the gods keep going in and out of him. They basically use him as a puppet. He could be going mad because manned without those access to those apples. Maybe. I think that may be part of it. Is there? Hmm. Because they're using up his essence, he may need the golden. Both he and they may need the golden apples when they're possessing his body. That could make sense. Let me write this down. Let me grab this. But I will be also pulling our chats and doing some mayhem on them. Golem and Dragon Age are made by moving. Should be Golem body. Okay. A copy of the map, I mean. Oh, yeah, I saw the copy of the map. I saw it. Well, great. They can all cringe. I'm going to call him Jason till the day he dies. He's my kid. I'll call him what I want to call him. And I've spent his whole lifetime calling him Jason. I'm not going to call him Thor. Hemdall could have accidentally connected to Steve. And in that moment, Steve saw what sees, and in that lore, Hemdall sees the entire universe at the same time. It could drive a person mad. Yeah, we could do that. It's tricky because on the show here, I do call him Jason. I do call him Thor sometimes. I do interchange them. So what I just said is probably not completely fair. But I also I do not call his brother on this show by his real name. I do call him Loki. Yeah, but he has given me permission to call him that because he's not a public figure. So it's fair that because what we can do is we can go back to Wednesday and I can copy all of the things that we've written and then formulate the overall story, because now we have the granddad story and the uncle story done. Now we're kind of chasing down how they got to this realm story. And part of what if so Loki and Heimdall are doing something. And what if when Thor jumps on them, Loki drops a prism which hits the light from the Rainbow Bridge and aims it outward. So it's like a prism just shoots out the light out, a little bit of a light out the other way, and that's what causes it. I'm not sure how the Rainbow Bridge works, whether it's just light or energy or something else. But in my head, it's like, what if a prism fell out of Loki's pocket or something and accidentally created a realm that Heimdall couldn't see? Pink Floyd cover type, yes. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to do this because part of me does want to make it Loki's fault. But by the same token, if Loki and Heimdall are doing something and Thor interrupts it, which causes the accident, Thor can still blame Loki. But the gods could also be trying to work out. Once this happens, they could also be trying to work out, now that the prism has fallen through or whatever, to where it's not that light anymore. Heimdall cannot see this realm. the gods may be trying to work out how to get to that realm. Yeah, whatever Loki was doing, he shouldn't have been doing. We all know that because that's just so. It is. It's visible as a rainbow bridge is made of light. So yeah, maybe something like a prism or a magnifying glass or something that was on Loki while he and Hamdell were discussing something, because he may have been discussing with Hamdell if there's a way to move to other realms or create other realms, or maybe we're not teleported that much or jump ahead that much, but because I don't really think it matters what Loki was trying to do. What matters is that Loki has the stuff on him needed to create this new realm. And to me, a prism with light is a good way to start with that. He drops something that cuts a part of the bridge, causing light to fall on the village, while the other part goes to other side, which could explain the village disappearing, as the rainbow bridge is a traveling device of sorts. Right, but we also don't want to bring everybody. We only want to, because we need to leave behind like mom and dad. We need to leave behind other things. I mean, well, here's a question. Are there any villages in Viking lore that just disappeared? Yeah, because like I know that there's one here in the U.S. I forget what the story is, but there's a town that a lot of people lived in way back in I guess the Pilgrim days. And the name is slipping my mind, but everybody in it just disappeared one day. Crotona, Crotona on Crotona. Yeah. So could it be? Is there any version of that in Viking lore where a town disappeared, or a whole piece of civilization disappeared? If there's not, fine, but I don't know if there is, so I'll have to look that up. Um, so let's go get another window up here. Roanoke. Roanoke is a city in the Blue Ridge Mountains of South Virginia. It's known as Roanoke Star, also known as over the city's Roanoke colony was an attempt as Sir Walter Raleigh to found the first permanent English settlement in North America. Colony was founded in 1585. But when it was visited by ship in 1590, the colonists had all disappeared. So it's Roanoke. Roanoke. What is this other one? Found carved in a tree on Roanoke Island. It says the lost colony. Oh, so Croatona, Toan, was carved in a tree on Roanoke Island at the site of the lost colony in 1590. Hmm. Characters have. Okay. Google says in Norse mythology, Utgard or I can never pronounce that, is the land of the giants, a piece beyond the known world. In some stories, travelers who wandered too far into unknown lands were said to disappear, possibly taken by supernatural beings or lost in the realms beyond the mortal reach. This echoes of the eerie vanishing without a trace feeling of Croata. I can't pronounce these words. I'm sorry. I cannot pronounce them. I'm just stupid. I hate when this thing does this. You gotta be over here before you can move shit. Just drop it here for right now. And of course now it's lost it, but okay, let's try it again. Why is this not working? Okay. Cannot be added. It would be exceed. Oh, we need a new box. Okay, new box. Villages disappearing in 800, 1000 AD when Vikings were things is quite normal. Just assume they were raided. Well, but I like the idea of that whatever Loki was carrying and hit the Rainbow Bridge. I actually like the idea that one beam went out to the village, the other beam went out to another realm, and took them with them. And whether and maybe it is Utgard, but we'll see. I'll have to do some more research on that and see. We have just about a minute before zombie attack is coming. Well, apparently not even a minute. I do not have a recap at this time, Scry, because we only just really started on this a short time ago. What I had suggested last week, and I haven't had time to put together yet because I was rebuilding my computer over the weekend, is I'm going to put together a Miro board and then give people access to the Miro board, and then we'll go from there because there's a lot of story stuff that we've put together here in the last few episodes. So all of this would be part of it. There's some stuff. There's a lot of things in here that we can kind of dig through. We have a bunch of stuff up here as well. So, but I will build a new Miro board as soon as I get a chance to, and put all the stuff that we've talked about over the last few days. And if I can get I'll look at what Savvy sent me in regards to getting the a transcript of the chat, and I'll pull the chat from those days so that we can have everything in one place. So yeah. Because the gods only became a thing in the plot of the story, in all honesty, I think today, because of the questions that you brought up. because we hadn't got there yet. We were still talking about the only thing we've talked about before that is that the grandfather still believes in the gods and still wants to adhere to the gods, where the uncle does not. And based on the circumstances, you can understand that because the grandfather is still very human, very much connected to the gods, where the uncle is his consciousness has been moved from a human being who died to a mechanized a machine. Yeah, and very stripped down. It's not like huge, and we just kind of not formalize that thing, but have a basic thing that I read this morning of what their backstory kind of is. But it's not perfect yet either. But we hadn't even started to talk about how they all got there yet. That's what we were doing this morning when you brought in your questions. I know the post, his progress on his YouTube channel. What I do is I actually cut out, on the YouTube channel, there is a game dev playlist, and I cut out just the parts that we could do game dev, and there's a list for those in there. So if you go to the game dev playlist, I think it's up to date. I put all the stuff in. So it's just the parts that are when we talked about game dev and how we started this and the fact that we had never really planned on making a game, but it kind of turned into this. Illidan would be impressed. I don't think so. Okay, where are we at? Oh, wow. I didn't realize what? Sorry, I just looked at the clock and just realized that we're pretty close to ending for today for the game dev stuff. I don't know how to pose my question. My brain is in space in gameplay, discovering the story, and asking myself, do gods matter? And we fight, meet them, or they over articulated background. The day-to-day of the gods in our story at this point is not important. I think what we're trying to do right now is acknowledge they're there and discuss if they have anything to do with why our people got sent here. Time flies when you're talking Norse method. It sure does. I could have swore that I looked up a minute ago and it was only about 10 after 2. And now it's 25 after 3. And I'm like, what the, huh? It's more of a what? Uh, essentially, we don't know yet. Oh, for Scry, yes. They might just because of the ordeal that the townsfolk are in. And the story is more about what the people do once they get there. That's kind of where we're at, yeah. Though the granddad still adheres to the gods, it doesn't mean that the gods are answering him. And one of the things that our character has to do that we talked about is the grandfather had built altars to the 9 gods, the 9 gods that he adheres to. And the grandson needs to rebuild those altars because the uncle had them torn down Thank you for the bless you. But yeah, it's still pretty open. Yeah, the idea for the grandfather is that Norse mythology is real and literal, even if it's in the background. Yes, that is 100% the grandfather's thought on it. Because that's what guides the grandfather's storyline, the grandfather's beliefs, the grandfather's all that stuff, why the grandfather does what he does. It also is the anti-guide for the uncle who believes that the gods are gone and that they have to make the world could be on their own, which means he's also a machine, so he loses a lot of the belief stuff that he may have had at one point. And that's where our conflict between the two of them is, and which can be why the uncle kidnaps grandfather, because he may think, oh, he put me in this mechanicalized body. If I learn how he did it, I can put other people in mechanical bodies and build an army or build a bunch of mechanical miners or whatever, enslave them, whatever. We haven't even got that far yet. This was just something that came up today. So these are the discussions we're having. Creates a geopolitical landscape for the townsfolk, and it gives you a reason for them to be teleported into realm unknown. It gives you a reason for magic to exist, and it creates a general drive for whatever happens forwards. Thank you. I think that explanation is what I needed. Oh, okay. Glad it could help. But just no scry. I actually do appreciate the questions you brought up, because we do need to answer them eventually. And if we can, the simpler the answers we can find, the better. And in all honesty, there's some of them we may never be able to answer. It doesn't mean we hold up everything just because we can't answer them. Because it may be, in all honesty, it may be episode 2 that has the answers to a lot of it. Don't know. But we will see. We will see how it goes. Where are we at? Okay, we are 1 minute. In 1 minute, we will be late. No, in 1 minute, we'll be on time. In 2 minutes, we will be late. But we have plenty of time. So we got a lot of notes. I'm going to go over after the show today. I will go over and go back and collect as many of the chats as I can, because I know that some of them disappear at some point. Yeah. As far as the transfer of minds, some kind of riff on scrying or spirit journey or something. Maybe so specifically done with spirit speakers. Well, I'm not very familiar with Norse mythology. Well, the grandfather is the one that did it because he didn't want to lose his brother. So we will look into it, because the grandfather is more on the the mythology and gods and powers and metaphysical stuff. We can find. I'm pretty sure we can find something in that mythology that can be like a what did they used to, astral projection or something, where he can astral project the soul of his brother into a mech. Blaze, you always show up just as we're leaving. No, although we are leaving the dev part today. We're going over to start putting together for our raid for the day. But thank you for coming in. Everybody's doing well today. A lot of good story stuff today. No, you can catch up. It'll be in the YouTubes later. All 60, I think it's 60 episodes of the game dev stuff should be up there up until, and I'll put today's up there later tonight. So the grandfather had a moment of weakness and made a mortal sin against the gods. Yes, to protect his brother's soul in a machine, to not lose him. Yes, that is exactly what we've talked about. Yeah. Well, because they're twin brothers. So, as much as they disagree with each other, Grandpa does love his brother. Although they probably fight at every family reunion. So, well, Scry, thanks for hanging out with us today. No, you're fine. Your questions helped shape the story. Yes, it did. So, no bother at all. Yeah. Take care. That has a lot of potential for many roads to take. Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of things we can do with that. So, yeah. Alrighty then. Let us bring our logos back up and close this out. And close close our little windows here. And bring our logo back up. Nope, I took me out. Haha. There we go. Let our stuff run. I am trying to keep track of names and stuff to be able to put in here for the people that are helping, but we do run it at the beginning of the show with the big list for the whole show and during this part here. So luckily we got a lot of people helping, which I think is cool. Yeah, you kind of show up everywhere, Sparta. You have your fingers in a lot of things. Just saying. So let us go back to me. We will end our broadcast day for Game Dev.